Welcome to The Process. It is Tuesday, April 13th, and we actually have a pretty manageable slate here. Just 6 games, should be pretty easy to work through. We could take our time, maybe take some questions. It's going to be a good one, so please hit the like button as you get in the door. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. All of that stuff helps me and Awesemo.com out tremendously. So if you can do that, that would be great. And rise and grind, everybody. It's good to see you guys here. I see the chat flush with coffee cups. I'm very excited to take my first sip. It's probably like the best part of my day, so that should be pretty good. I hope you guys were able to find at least a little bit of success last night. I know I wasn't. Last night was wild. I had what I thought was a really nice amount of Joel Embiid. The Sixers beat the pants off of the Mavs. Joel Embiid finished with 49 fantasy points in 26 minutes on FanDuel. 1.93 FanDuel points per minute. And you just kind of needed those last couple minutes. Steph Curry shot the absolute lights out, just like Laffy and I talked about on the strategy show. That was the exact kind of game he needed to have. Brandon Ingram ended up outpacing Zion. Russ got there in 39 minutes, was inefficient, but, still absolutely what you expect out of Russ. And then it got weird. Joe Val, another big day. De'Aaron Fox went nuts. The rest of the Sacramento Kings were dreadful. Even after Buddy Hield was ruled out, I thought to myself, oh, cool. It's a really good day to have, more Harrison Barnes and a lot more Tyrese Halliburton and a lot more Rashawn Holmes. Not true. Not true at all. Jokic was fine. Christian Wood was pretty good. 51 fantasy points in 34 minutes. Some of the guys some of the guys that I didn't expect to pop off. Who expected 33 fantasy points in 20 minutes out of Drew Eubanks yesterday? Certainly not I. Who expected the fantasy point per minute leader of anybody that played like legitimate minutes to be Taj Gibson? 35 fantasy points in 17 minutes. 2.06 FanDuel points per minute. Amazing. Korkmaz was an okay value. Jayshawn Tate was an okay value. Luka was a disappointment. Scored, did very little else. Coughed the ball up. Mitchell smashed. The Utah guys were good. You can't really ask for too much more. Just a gross slate all around. Value wasn't not a lot of guys had value. Actually, let me look at that. So on FanDuel, I remember thinking that it was interesting and I wanted to say something. I should have left it up. So the highest value guy yesterday was Drew Eubanks at 9.3x. Taj Gibson was at 8.1x. Kevin Porter Jr. went 8x. Every single other player on yesterday's 8-game slate was below 8x value. There was just nobody really hit value the way that you're really looking for it. It was kind of crazy. So that's fine. I hope you guys had some success. That's all that matters to me. Rob, congratulations. Ty, congratulations. Yeah, go Mo Harkless, I guess. That's the key to it all. evidently. But let's get into the real stuff now. We're gonna switch that screen. So, guys, again, thank you for being here. I appreciate you guys hitting the like button as you get here. 6 games, so we can move at a relatively normal rate of speed, which is nice. Coffee cups are up. Cheers, everybody. It's a great way to start the morning. Grab your coffees, beers, ciggies. What else could we be drinking? Orange juice. I never mentioned orange. If you're a juice person in the morning, go for that. If you got a bagel, I would love a bagel. It would ruin my day to have a breakfast bagel, but I would love it more than anything. There's very little better than a fresh bagel with a little bit of cream cheese to me. I love it so much. And it would put me right to bed. But that's what the coffee is for. So cheers, everybody. Good luck today. I love it. Let's get into this. So 6 gamer, and you know what, Shaquem? You are absolutely right. Water is the most important drink of the morning, and you are correct. So I have my water here. I drink that before, the moment I start waking up. I start chugging that water. Wood Piece. I think the everything bagel has become mildly overrated. I've made the transition, and I know that I'm going to be weird for this. I don't expect everybody to agree with me here. I have become a garlic bagel connoisseur. Ty, I think coffee is probably more than 99% water, if I had to guess. But yeah, the garlic bagel has become my preferred choice of bagel. And if I'm feeling really froggy, I also get garlic cream cheese. So I am like really probably not a treat to be around. Something about that strong garlic flavor that is darn tasty. But then bread products can't do them. Well, when I do them frequently. It's usually a mistake. All right, let's get some tunage on. Perfect. Let's start projecting out this slate. So we've got the Atlanta Hawks are on the road against the Toronto Raptors, and the Hawks are aggressively walking wounded. Q tag on Trae Young. No Hunter, no Collins, no Reddish, no Snell, no Dunn. And Danilo Gallinari is also questionable. This is brutal. Brutal. Jerry, I don't know what that means. What is a hash brown bagel? If you're just telling me there's a hash brown on it, that's terrible, but hash brown bagel recipe. Ooh, it's made with potato dough. Okay. Ooh, Brugger's has them. Okay, I can hunt that down. I'm a little bit more intrigued. Okay, let's get into Atlanta, though. I think that's most important. And their most recent game will match the rotation, so that should help us out a lot. Clint Capella, by all accounts, should be playing pretty big minutes here. Onyeka Okongwu playing the backup center run. Trae Young, I'm going to assume plays. He has had duck fat bagels. That's a good callback. I'm going to assume Trae Young is playing. I don't really know how else to move forward here. And then I'm going to delete every other minute on here because I think we really do need a fresh look. All right. So, yeah, the assumption has to be that Trae Young is playing, I think. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem. But I guess I should at least look at the blurb. Left calf contusion. Surprise, surprise. I mean, he'll have a shoot around. This game is, I assume, early. Yeah, this game is at 7:30, so we have very little to worry about there. So we will get this information one way or the other. So that also makes me much more likely to be projecting Trae Young in. After that, it starts to get a little bit squirrely. So Lou Will played 28 minutes. he seems like 22, 23, 24 is probably like the ceiling here. I'm going to say 24 right now. They were able to go with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they went to a 9-man rotation when Trae Young was out. Obviously, Trae Young is going to take the spot of Skylar Mays. So I think that they'll just continue that 9-man rotation. Capella, Okongwu, Nathan Knight. Okay, so they have no problem playing two of the bigs alongside each other. I just want to know if it's Okongwu or Knight that's playing at the 4, because I think that matters a little bit in terms of who can get more minutes. And judging by what I see now, Nathan Knight is the guy that can play a little bit more at the 4. Good to know. So we're going to give Nathan Knight, well, I think we're going to give Solomon Hill the starting 4 minutes. And that would be probably 34, just like the starters. And then I can give 14 to Knight. We would get Bogdanovich at the 3 playing 35 minutes. We would get Kevin Huerter at the 2 playing 33 minutes. So that leaves us 17 minutes for the final person of the rotation, which in theory is Brandon Goodwin. Although you can make a case that Skylar Mays is the better fit. So I think that I'm actually going to split the minutes between the two. And we're going to call it... Actually, let's move 13 minutes of Huerter there. That leaves us 17 minutes. I don't want to give Brandon Goodwin all 17 minutes, but I think that I might have to. But I don't think it'll matter. So we're going to give 11 to Brandon Goodwin and 7 to Skylar Mays. Done. Now we'll go 12 and 6. I don't know why I care. No, we won't even go 12 and 6. We'll go 11 and 6. We'll get there eventually. All right. Let's check some rates out here. I don't know how easy it's going to be to get this because with so many dudes out, it's really going to paint a different story. So if we take Gallo off and Collins off and Hunter off and Reddish off, I will leave Snell on, I think, because otherwise I'm just going to lose out on too many minutes. So in this scenario with these guys off, and again, we're leaving Tony Snell on since he is not a usage hog. Bogdanovich with a 23.5% usage rate in 261 minutes in this scenario. So I'm going to go ahead and bump him up to 22.5. No real changes in his other rates. We're going to go ahead and leave Clint Capella's rate there. I think just locking him in at 20% usage is a good idea. Right now, Capella and Trae Young are the standout options for me. No surprises. Kevin Huerter can stand to increase his usage a little bit. I might have to put a little contact solution in my eyes. These are a little blurry. Lou Will, 25% usage feels right. Solomon Hill, just because he's playing such big minutes, but his usage never changes. Trae Young will be the biggie. 158 minutes in this scenario, 34.2% usage. So I'm going to at least give him a little bit of a bump. Assist rate is already high, so I don't really have anything that I can change there. No one else seems to be getting a pretty big bump in ball handling duty. Just stays in Trae's hands, as it should. And this could blow up if Trae Young ends up being out. So yeah, that all looks pretty good to me. I made a couple tweaks yesterday too, even after I just explained everything to everybody. I changed my boom calculation to 4.5 and 10 and added myself a little bit of a plus minus as a sort of an eyeball test, make things a little bit easier for me. So I'm happy with the projections that I have in here for Atlanta. Quite clearly, Clint Capella and Trae Young are the primary options. I think that Clint Capella and Trae Young are essentially equal relative to salary. Capella 9,300 on FanDuel. Trae Young is 8,900. And then on DK, these guys are like flip flopped. Capella 8,500. Trae Young 9,100. I would prefer Clint Capella slightly more than Trae Young. Both guys are going to fix prominently in lineups today in a 6-gamer. But I'd say Solomon Hill, Kevin Huerter, Bogdanovich, all very good plays on FanDuel. Bogdanovich 6,800 on DK, looking even better there. What else we got? Yeah, Huerter for 5,500 and 5,300 looks solid. Solomon Hill for 4K on DraftKings is fine. That'll be a value play that will work. He's 3,700 on FanDuel. Clearly not a great fantasy player, but it's a decent value. You get some contact solution. Oh God, what a ginormous improvement already. Now I feel good. Okay, so it's I mean, I'm liking these first 5 guys for Atlanta. I don't think Lou Will is ultra viable, but 4,600 on FanDuel is significantly more viable than the $5,200 price tag on DraftKings. That coffee is like a hair too hot right now. Either way, though, Atlanta grading out pretty well. On to the next one, Boston Celtics. I feel like I haven't done anything with the Celtics in a while. I don't know what's up with my contacts. I should probably just change them. Probably a pretty good idea. So Evan Fournier out. That's really the only issue for anything in Boston. Dan, happy to have you here, man. Morning to JB Crush as well. All right, so for Boston, I can't imagine we're going to have too much here. Kemba continues to just play 33 minutes a game unless something disastrous happens. Raymond, glad you're here, man. That's awesome. 96 viewers, 53 likes. That ratio is not too bad. I can't complain too much. Robert Williams at 26 minutes. Tristan Thompson, good. Grant Williams probably needs an extra minute from somewhere. I just don't know where that comes from. Looks like it comes from Semi Ojeleye. So let's take 2 from Semi. We've got Romeo Langford in for 14. I think that's fine. Peyton Pritchard's minutes have become a bit more tenuous. That's fine. So let's move 2 of those. And then we'll move 2 of those. And then 2 of those. And that lets me get Grant Williams to 18 minutes. Yay. Rates for Boston are certainly where they're supposed to be. Absolutely no changes to be made here. So for Boston, and if I didn't say it at the beginning, I should have. Boston is on the road taking on the Portland Trailblazers. Best play for Boston on FanDuel is quite clearly Robert Williams, 6K. He's been at 1.41 FanDuel points per minute over the last 30 days. I have him slightly less than that, and he still grades out as the best play. I think that he has been the best play we've seen so far, better than Trae Young and better than Clint Capella. I think Kemba Walker is my second favorite option here, 6,600 on FanDuel. Probably like 2 fantasy points ahead of Jaylen Brown relative to salary. I think that's a pretty decent, creates a decent tier. Don't forget, by the way, guys, I still have my notes. I am going to put this stuff into tiers. Probably won't happen till like Thursday or Friday. I just need to find some time to be able to do it. Got a couple things going on this week. Schedule is kind of packed. So we're ranking the Boston Celtics on FanDuel. Robert Williams, Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, and Marcus Smart is pretty far down now at 6,900. On DK, I think that Kemba is slightly ahead of Robert Williams, even though they have the exact same prices on both sites. Just Robert Williams, the way that Robert Williams plays DFS fits the FanDuel scoring a bit more. Considering he is very heavily reliant on steals and blocks. There were 3 on FanDuel, just 2 on DraftKings. So I prefer Kemba to Robert Williams on DK. Jaylen Brown then is in third. Marcus Smart in fourth. Jason Tatum at 9,200 would be my fifth favorite. Marcus Smart being $700 cheaper on DraftKings just makes things a lot easier to handle. All right, from there, yeah, I think we're moving on. You know what? Let's bring back the running table because I want to kind of get a feel for this slate as we move along. So we've only had Atlanta and Boston so far, and we've had Atlanta and Boston. So if we want to think about this in the grand scheme of things, yeah, Robert Williams at the top of the heap on FanDuel. A little bit different on DraftKings, where Capella and Trae Young are still at the top. So we're bouncing back and forth between the two sites, that's for sure. On to the Charlotte Hornets. This is a team I'm actually anxious to project. I don't know why. Charlotte at home, hosting the LA Lakers. Obviously, Lakers on a back-to-back and a bit shorthanded. No Hayward, no Ball, no Monk. PJ Washington is probable. And these minutes have been super weird for this team. So that's going to be a very interesting set of projections. We saw Bismack Biyombo play a little bit on the 11th, but he appears to just be out of the rotation now. Cody Zeller and PJ Washington holding down most of the minutes at the 5. And then Bismack Biyombo obviously finished that off with another 7. But I don't get the sense that I want to continue to give him anything other than just spillover run. Cody Zeller playing 24 minutes at center does seem a bit high. So I do want to bring that down to 22. And then move those spillover 4 to Biyombo. PJ Washington playing 30 minutes just seems correct to me. Whoop, too many minutes for Bridges there. Obviously, Bridges had the monster dunk on Sunday. So if you haven't seen that, you should go out of your way to go find it. Jalen McDaniels over the past 3 games, now that he's been starting, just playing 30 minutes a game. So I'm going to leave those 30 in, which gives Miles Bridges 10 more minutes at the 4. And by all accounts, he's playing like 36 minutes a game. So I need to give him 26 minutes here, which does put us over. Devontae Graham at 29 minutes, I'm okay with. Brad Wanamaker as the backup with 19, but he is playing a little bit more alongside Devontae Graham as well. Terry Rozier is just going to stay at 36 minutes. That one's a no-brainer. So the Martin twins, particularly Cody in this sense, needs to lose some minutes. I'll fill their minutes in last. So we want to get Brad Wanamaker, I think, to 22 minutes. And that leaves me 31 minutes for the Martins. Seems fine, I guess. And I don't think it really matters who gets what. So we'll go 9 and 8 and 14. Done. I can't imagine I need to change any rates for Brad Wanamaker or Zeller. Actually, we probably have a decent sample now with those 3 guys off the floor that we should update Charlotte rates. So we need to take off Malik Monk, Gordon Hayward, and who am I missing? Malik Monk, Gordon Hayward, LaMelo Ball, the best one of the bunch. Well, future best one of the bunch. Okay, that looks a little bit better now. So from a rates perspective, Brad Wanamaker, 21% usage in that time. Certainly not projecting Brad Wanamaker for 21% usage, but I'll give you 17.5. Cody Zeller, 20% usage. I'll give you a little bit of a bump. Devontae Graham, 22.9. So he is getting back to being Devontae Graham in this scenario. Plus 11% usage rate. Jalen McDaniels, 142 minutes with those 3 men off the floor. Just shy of an 18% usage rate, which is his normal. Miles Bridges is at 20. I'm going to bump him up. PJ Washington, no real change in his usage rate. Doesn't really matter all that much. And then Terry Rozier, 27.6% usage rate with those guys off the floor. We'll take that to 27. That should cover us. So for Charlotte here against the Lake Show, yeah, I'm okay with most of those projections. We see Terry Rozier at the top of the heap on FanDuel at 7K. He is a much worse play on DraftKings to the tune of almost 4 fantasy points different relative to salary. Terry Rozier is $1,200 more expensive on DraftKings than he is on FanDuel. Miles Bridges, $6,200 on FanDuel, $5,800 on DraftKings. Miles Bridges actually is my favorite Charlotte Hornet on DK. Jalen McDaniels is $4,300 on DraftKings and $6K on FanDuel. So this Charlotte team is all over the place in terms of projections right now and salaries. PJ Washington's salary is pretty normal, and he's kind of the same guy on both sites. Same for Devontae Graham. But like to roster Jalen McDaniels on FanDuel is going to be pretty hard at 6K, and it's going to be really easy at $4,300 on FanDuel. That's a $1,700 difference. Makes Terry Rozier's look small. So you're working your way through all 5 starters for the Hornets. You know, it honestly wouldn't shock me if they started Cody Zeller here, but who knows? Yeah, so Terry Rozier looks solid. Let's add them into Atlanta and Boston. We'll see where everybody stacks up. So Robert Williams is still at the top of the heap on FanDuel, but Terry Rozier is now number 2, just slightly ahead of Clint Capella and Trae Young. And then on DK, Bridges is just a hair behind Clint Capella relative to salary. Jalen McDaniels now 4th. Very, very, very different structure tonight between FanDuel and DK. 114 viewers, 65 likes, coming up on the 7 a.m. mark. Don't be afraid to hit that like button if you are here and you haven't done it yet, guys. Helps us out a ton. All right, Indiana Pacers. So no Miles Turner, and that is all we have to worry about right now, which means that this should be a relatively easy rotation to project. We've got Sabonis playing 34 minutes, and it is against the Clippers, so you have to assume that the starters are going to be playing their firm minutes when they can. I've got Brogdon at 33 minutes. It kind of feels like I should get him to 34, so I'm going to do that. TJ McConnell at 24 minutes. Yeah, most of this just seems pretty easy. They're not running anybody into the ground except for Brogdon, Sabonis, and LeVert, really. And I think that I have all of this stuff in here the way that I would want it. So I know that these rates are already updated for Turner being off the floor, so I don't really have anything to add for Indiana. This is nothing new. It's a terrible spot. I can't imagine anybody's grading out really, really well unless we've had a big-time salary change. So for Indiana, yeah, nothing too crazy here. Malcolm Brogdon for $6,700 on DraftKings is going to stand out. There are no standout plays from Indiana on FanDuel. Sabonis and Brogdon are the 2 main options. I don't really see getting to Karis LeVert at $8,300 as particularly viable. He is much more viable at $7,500 on DK, but it's a bad matchup against the Clippers. We've got Indiana is 1.5 point dogs at home, 229 total. I don't anticipate having a ton coming from the Pacers, barring news. So if I add Indiana to the running total, yeah, as you can see, like Sabonis is the 8th best play on FanDuel of just the 4 teams I've looked at already. No one is in that range from Indiana, even on DraftKings. It's not that kind of game at all. So I'm sure Indiana will be the team that smacks tonight. Los Angeles Clippers. We are moving through this slate crisply. No Pat Bev, no Kawhi Leonard, no Serge Ibaka. So should be the same rotation we just saw play 2 nights ago. So we get Paul George at, yeah, I got to give Paul George 36 minutes here. Cousins is not seeing the floor, which is hilarious. Avicii Zubac. What watch charged? About to be. Zubac played 35 minutes. Actually, not the worst spot in the world for him. So I'm going to take him back up to 29. You know what? I'm going to gut this entire team. It's easier to just reproject everything when everybody's all wonky. Am I wrong? Was Brogdon 5th? Yeah, that's a good eye. I forgot about Brogdon. That's a good eye, King Hope. Izzy, good morning. Nice to see you. Glad you're here. Morning, boob. All right, so Avicii Zubac at 29 minutes. Backup center run going to, I guess technically Pat. Pat played 5 minutes the last time out. So then it's also just going to Marcus Morris. So I expect Pat to play a little bit more than that. Especially against Indiana, he kind of fits this matchup a little bit better. But I don't want to give him too much run. So then we'll go to Marcus Morris for 11 and we'll say 20. 31 minutes feels about right. Reggie Jackson just plays like 29 minutes a game, so we can go there. We'll give Terrence Mann. Oh, man. Terrence Mann's minutes are the worst. We'll go 24 to Terrence Mann. Now, who am I missing that's going to play a ton? All right, Nick Batum obviously going to be playing 28 minutes or so. We still got to give Rondo minutes. All right, so I got to start shifting all of these guys. Paul George is now officially playing the 3. Luke Kennard played 24 minutes and 25 minutes, so giving him 24 minutes feels spot on. That leaves me 31 minutes to go between Rondo and nobody, basically. So I have 11 minutes left over. I think Patrick Patterson is just going to naturally have to get more. Who am I not giving minutes to? Well, let's get one more to Batum. I'm going to give one more to Luke Kennard. I think just giving them the Patrick Patterson is going to really be the easiest way to do this. We'll give him 7. Another minute to Rondo. Man, I almost feel like I need to give Marcus Morris 32, but he doesn't ever play those big minutes. Batum is more likely to fall into them. Or Reggie Jackson playing 30. Let's do that. Rates should all be largely the same, but at this point, I think I need to grab them anyway. So let's pull the Clippers rates against or with all these guys off the floor. So we'll take Kawhi off. We'll take Lou Will off. Glad I was able to remember that one. We will take Ibaka off. And who am I missing? Who's the third guy? Oh, yeah, Bev. All right, so that should cover me for guys that aren't really on this team. Good enough. Avicii Zubac, 15. That's fine. Luke Kennard in these scenarios, 238 minutes, 20.8% usage rate. So I'm going to give him 19.5. Marcus Morris, 24% usage rate in 111 minutes. Can't go all the way there, but I will give him another bump to 22.5. Batum, I'm sure, stays the same. Yes. Paul George, 35.9% usage in this scenario. Just big rate bumps all around. I'm going to go a little bit higher for Paul George. Paul George is going to be grading out quite high here. Be ready. Butthole, nice to see you. That's a funny thing to say. Rondo can hold there. Reggie Jackson does see like a little bit of a bump and a bit of an assist bump. And then Terrence Mann, 17.7. Pat, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. That's a really nice lineup. Drummond was not fun. All right, so on to Indiana. Or sorry, on to the Clippers against Indiana. We've got Paul George, unquestionably the top play so far. He is number one with a bullet. He is 9K on FanDuel. He is 8,700 on DraftKings, and he is unquestionably the best guy we've seen so far. That said, Marcus Morris, Reggie Jackson, Ivica Zubac, Luke Kennard all look really nice on DK. Not the same kind of play as Paul George, but good. Zubac and Reggie Jackson look a little bit better on FanDuel. Marcus Morris, fine. Kennard, though, at 4,200 on FanDuel is a little bit of a tough sell. But the Clippers now, shorthanded Clippers are fully in play. Oh, yeah, Paul George back in Indiana. Yeah, look at Paul George just completely separated from the pack. He is 6.9, which is nice, fantasy points ahead of Clint Capella relative to salary. And they are basically the same salary anyway, so that makes some sense. On FanDuel, it's close to 4 full points ahead of Robert Williams, but Paul George is looking like the unquestioned top play of the day. We'll move it on to the other LA team. So we'll go to the Lakers. Lakers coming off last night's game. No LeBron, no AD. Seems like everybody should be fine. Best I can tell. So let's take a look at what we had going on for the Lakers yesterday and how much we need to match that sort of stuff. Because we got 5 minutes out of Marc Gasol, 15 out of Montrezl Harrell, and 25 out of Drummond. So fun stuff there. I'm going to give 26 to Drummond, 20 to Harrell, and 2 spillover minutes to Marc Gasol. Caruso didn't play a ton, but I don't think that's going to be par for the course moving forward. Ben McLemore actually played a little bit more than I was expecting. Did that just happen in time that wasn't important? No, he actually got a rotation. Okay. So Ben McLemore played more than I was expecting. That is important information because it means that we need to take a couple minutes here off of Wes Matthews. Give them to Ben McLemore. Anybody else that I need to take minutes from? I probably need to give minutes to THT, if we're being honest. Markieff Morris played a little bit less than I thought he would. I'm going to take 1 minute away from him, take him to 29. Caruso played less, but I think the 22 moving forward is where he will be. It's just a weird team to project. So I think most of this should be fine. All the rates should be the same. And get ready, guys. We're going to be going... we're going to be going back to... Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's a good call, Jerry. We're going to be going back to Andre Drummond, so it really doesn't matter. Andre Drummond, 7K on FanDuel. So we want to shake the hand of whoever's doing the salaries on FanDuel for making that a little bit more difficult. Unfortunately, $6,700 Andre Drummond on DraftKings is still looking pretty good. Drummond is the best play of the Lakers on FanDuel. Schroeder would be second, but he's not really a close second, and there's no one else involved. It's really, really a problem to want to get to the Lakers. There's not much here outside of Drummond. So if we look at the list here, I mean, I have Drummond a fantasy point behind Robert Williams, so I prefer Robert Williams there. Andre Drummond is also a half point behind Capella on DK. So you can pump the brakes at least a little bit, but really the Lakers just do not look good today as a fantasy option. Miami Heat on the road against the Phoenix Suns. They haven't been good as of late. This, I assume, looks like a terrible fantasy game, which means that's a really tricky on a 5-gamer. No Oladipo for a while. Everything else is pretty normal. So we just kind of got to match up whatever they've been doing from a rotational standpoint. Goran Dragic, I'm going to have to take at least a minute away from him. Kendrick Nunn back in the rotation and playing again. I think it's in my best interest to start this one over. So we're going to go ahead and give Goran Dragic 25 minutes. I'm going to give Kendrick Nunn the other 23 at the point guard spot. Bam is just going to get his 33 minutes. Actually, today feels like a day that he would play 34, but he does it so infrequently that I'm going to give him 33. And then We now have, let's see, Precious probably just playing those backup minutes, I guess. Most of this is just going to end up building itself, huh? I'm going to build back to front. So at the 4. Okay, so Deadman still hasn't played. That's interesting. All right, at the 4. Bielitsa already not playing, which is wild. We'll give Andre Iguodala 23 minutes. And then Trevor Ariza. He's been playing about 26 minutes a game. I think 26 feels fine, but I am going to cut it to 25 just to make my life a little bit easier. Jimmy Butler. We know what he can do. 35 minutes for Butler. I'm going to give another, let's call it 13 here and 15. So that's 28 to Duncan Robinson. We'll go 30 to Tyler Hero. That leaves me 3 for whoever else I want to give spillover minutes to. But I'm actually just going to give them straight to Kendrick Nunn to go to 26. And I think we're okay there. Rates should largely be the same. I don't have much that I want to change here. And I don't get the sense that we're going to be playing very much Miami Heat. This doesn't look very good. Against Phoenix, yeah, like Butler's okay, Bam's okay. These are guys that you can roster. It falls off pretty aggressively after that. You know, maybe a little bit of Tyler Hero, but that is it on FanDuel. You can't roster anybody other than Butler, Bam, and Tyler Hero based on this 9-man rotation. On DraftKings, it's a little different. Butler's still at the top at 9,300. Bam would be second, but he's basically tied with Tyler Hero. Neither one of them are like fantastic plays. Kendrick Nunn is at least rosterable at 4,400, but I don't think that he is a particularly good play either. It's really just not a priority for the Miami Heat today. And as I add them back to the list, we see like there's nobody near the top. So nothing too crazy. Miami, easy to project, easy to avoid. Oklahoma City, on the other hand, taking on the Utah Jazz. Jazz on the back of back. Oklahoma City, obviously a real tire fire of guys to roster. So no Shea, Dort back, Baisley back, no Pogashevsky, no Roby, no Josh Hall, no Gabriel Deck, whatever that is, no Muscala. So this all just has to go away. Get some. Oh, okay. We need to have a little conversation here, folks. 147 concurrent viewers, just 77 likes. Half of you are sleeping on that like button, guys. All you got to do is hit that thumbs up. If you're here, if you're joining us at 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm just going to ask for a thumbs up. It helps me out a ton and helps out the entire website. You should subscribe to the channel too. You don't want to miss this. All right, let's try this. Let's try the projections out here for Oklahoma City. Who was in the last time Oklahoma City played? So Poku got hurt in that one. Dort was back. Baisley was back. Okay, so I can use that as a linchpin here. So at the center position, it's going to be Moses Brown holding it down, along with Tony Bradley. We're going to go 26 and 22 for these guys. Teo Maladon playing 30 minutes at the point seems perfectly reasonable. Darius Baisley hopping right back into his normal run. There we go. Look at that number climb. Patrick Bush, good morning. All right, we're going to need minutes going to Ty Jerome. Who else is going to get big minutes? So Dort now back playing 29 minutes a game like he normally does. Bang. In. Svi played 20 minutes. We'll put his in next. We'll put Ty Jerome's in after that. Kenrich Williams played 20 minutes with everybody back. I think that's probably more likely than not likely. Jalen Horde still playing 24 minutes a game is pretty wild too. Yeah. Okay, so I'm thinking Kenrich Williams plays those 14 minutes. Who is the backup point guard here? I guess it's technically Ty Jerome, huh? 18 for Ty Jerome there. We'll give him a couple extra minutes alongside Teo Maladon. I don't feel like Kenrich Williams was playing 30 minutes today. I really, really don't. So Maladon, Dort, Baisley, center. Those four guys would close this game. Who would be the fifth guy to close? Because I think the answer could be literally anybody, depending on how the game's going. Like, I think Svi is probably more likely to close than Kenrich Williams, but I don't know. I'm going to give him 12. I'm going to give him 26 minutes. That leaves me 51 minutes for Jalen Horde and Svi. I'm going to give Svi 23. I'm going to give Jalen Horde 24. And that leaves me 4 minutes left over for spillover, which appear to be going to Justin Robinson. Now, all of these, whatever rates I have in here, are basically not going to exist. So I need to see how big of a bump some of these guys are taking. And it's not too bad. So what we need to do is just find out how some of these guys play with the guys that are still out. And obviously, this is a terrible spot against Utah. So we need to take Poku off. We need to take Shea off. And Roby off. Those are the three main guys that need to come off. Everybody else should be either like, oh, and Al Horford. Almost forgot. That's the big one. Shit, honestly, I probably need to take Justin Jackson off. All right, so Teo Maladon does get the bump. Darius Baisley gets to 22% usage just in 80 minutes, but either way. So I do want to get him firmly at 21. Dort also sees that bump, but not too much. I want him to only be at, excuse me, 21. Moses Brown, I'm going to hold at 18. That's not great for what I'm trying to do here. Maladon at 22 needs to stay. They just don't have a guy that soaks up usage here. It's really, really crazy. So I'm going to let this spread happen. Ty Jerome probably needs to get nerfed. I think that looks okay right now. I think I can be okay with this. No one ends up with like a particularly good assist rate, which is kind of wild. I do want to bump Maladon up to 7. Let's just see where we stand here. I can't imagine we like too much from Oklahoma City, given that they take on the Jazz. Okay, so Darius Baisley for 5,500 on DK is the best option between the two. Moses Brown for 5,100, I'm still going to at least take a shot on. But center is oddly deep today for just a 6-gamer. Baisley's fine on FanDuel as well. Maladon would be my third favorite in this game. And after that, you're kind of just dumpster diving. Tony Bradley. Oh, yeah. Tony Bradley is 4K on DK. That's going to be a value option. He's not in play on FanDuel. So we get Oklahoma City added in. Both sides. And yeah, like Moses Brown is the highest ranked guy on FanDuel, and he's just sort of in the mix. Baisley is 7th on DK. That looks at least a little bit better. But it's really Paul George and everybody else on DraftKings. What do we got left? 4 teams to go. Phoenix Suns, which I can only imagine I don't have to do anything to. Everybody in? Everybody in. Abdel Nader questionable, but that's not really going to affect anything for me. We know what we're getting here. This could potentially be a blowout. It is a back-to-back. I'm going to leave everything that I had in yesterday in, and you are about to see a team that is fully uninteresting. I I will not be playing really anybody from Phoenix on the FanDuel side. I think if you want to get to Ayton, it's okay, but Phoenix is not in play here. Taking on the Heat, 214 total is terrible. This is just a very bad DFS game. No real interest in the Suns whatsoever. Boob, I will be playing MLB. I do play MLB, but I haven't been playing MLB this season. I just have a full content schedule of NBA, and I don't like playing both things at once. All right, Portland Trailblazers, they are home against Boston. Everybody that can play is set to play, at least as of right now. So we know that we're going to get Dame at 36 minutes. We know we're going to get CJ at 36 minutes. We know we're going to get Covington close to that number. We know we're going to get Norm Powell close to that number. After that, it gets kind of easy. Cantor and Nurkic are going to play decent run. I'm going to say that they're going to split the center minutes. Anthony Simons is apparently not a part of the rotation anymore. Let's take all of these minutes out and fix everything. So Melo is basically down to 20 minutes now. That allows me to give 28 here to Covington plus another 6. So we got 34 minutes left between Nas Little and Derek Jones. That's fine. They both play about the same amount of time. So we'll give 17 here. You know what? We'll give 4 and 6 and 7. Rates will all stay the same. I can't imagine we're liking too much from Portland here. I would be wrong. Dame Lillard, even though he's been playing bad, 8,800 on FanDuel. This is like the same as Zach LaVine dropping in price like a week and a half ago. I will be playing quite a bit of Damian Lillard today, more so on FanDuel than DraftKings. On DraftKings, he's $700 more expensive. I think CJ, Nurkic, Cantor, all viable options. I think it falls off after that. Covington for 5,900 is okay on FanDuel. But if we just go back and scoop this up a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to be playing a lot of Dame today. The Dame, Paul George, Robert Williams combo going to be big for me. Is Powell in play? Not really. I can't. Powell's more in play on DraftKings at 5,700. He's all right. On to Toronto. No idea what the Raptors have coming back yet. So Van Vliet's still out. OG Anunoby is in. So that should be everything for me, right? I shouldn't, I'm going to take everybody out. There's no way that I'm trying to project this Toronto team without starting from scratch. So we get Kyle Lowry. 35 minutes is what I'm expecting. Home against the Hawks. We get Chris Boucher playing, let's say 26 minutes. Looks like Kem Birch is going to play a little bit here. He played 18 minutes his first time out. I'm going to go ahead and give him 16. Obviously, this game was without OG Anunoby. But I'm going to give Kem Birch 16. That gives me 6 here for Siakam plus another 30. Backup point guard to me is just going to be Malachi Flynn. Did Flynn play alongside? He certainly did. Again, that is without OG Anunoby, though. I will give Gary Trent 35 minutes. That's just going to be what happens. We will give OG Anunoby 35 minutes. I think that's just what's going to happen. So that leaves us 44 minutes left over for Bembry, Rodney Hood. So I'll give Rodney Hood those 13. I think I'll give... I guess Yuta Watanabe has been playing a lot. He can get in this rotation. Stanley Johnson didn't play even shorthanded. So I'm going to give 18 minutes there to Bembry and 13 to Yuta Watanabe. And these rates should be fine. And they are, so nothing to change there. And if we go look at Toronto, Raptors. Kyle Lowry, 7,200 on FanDuel is one of my new favorite plays. Kyle Lowry, 7,400 on DraftKings. The Kyle Lowry Paul George combo, ultra good. They're the two best plays on the slate so far. I think Siakam looks solid on both sites. I think Gary Trent looks solid on both sites. Anunoby is probably a bit overpriced, but still in play. Boucher, probably a bit overpriced on FanDuel. Not at all overpriced on DraftKings. 6,900 for Boucher works. You're going to be getting to a lot of Toronto tonight, I think. But Kyle Lowry is unquestionably the star of the show here. And as you can see, Lowry moves into the number 2 spot right behind Paul George. That is going to be pretty good. We're going to be looking at some Toronto today, though. It's a Toronto Raptors day against the Hawks, especially a short-handed Hawks team. That makes that game more in play. Now for the Utah Jazz, they should be getting what? Mike Conley back. Ooh, Jordan Clarkson is also probable. So I'm going to treat this like Jordan Clarkson is playing, at which point all of this is going to become very, very easy to handle. So let's delete all of those rates, except for Gobert's rebounding rate. And let's project this team like we normally do, because that's exactly what I'm expecting. Jazz at home against OKC. I think Mike Conley just comes back in, plays 30 minutes. Donovan Mitchell plays the backup point guard run. Plays 34 minutes total. Rudy Gobert, I think we get at 32 minutes, which allows us to give 16 to Derek Favors. We know George Niang is going to be playing the backup run at the 4. He'll get 16 minutes. We'll give Royce O'Neal 32. We'll give Bojan Bogdanovic 30. 18 more to Joe Ingles, plus another 8. Jordan Clarkson gets his 26, and we are done with the Utah Jazz, because all of this stuff is just always the same. Nothing ever changes. Get all their usage rates in. Done. For the Utah Jazz. Gobert on FanDuel for 8K looks solid. A little less solid on DK at the same price tag. Donovan Mitchell at 9,200 on FanDuel. We're back to not really wanting to play the Utah Jazz. Yesterday was an aberration. So, guys, 7:27. We just finished the 6-gamer with 3 minutes to spare. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought that I went quickly here through 6 games. Well, what are we going to do tomorrow? We're going to be here for 2 hours. 12 games tomorrow is going to be awful. Let's save this and run some crunches. So if you haven't hit the like button yet, I see that we are over 100 likes. So thank you very much for that. If you haven't hit the like button yet, though, please go ahead and do so. So I will have contenders videos out after this. No surprise there. Strategy show with Lofty will be at 10 a.m. Come join us for that. Ben Raza and I will likely have the PGA contenders coming out today. Although Ben did get his COVID shot and I know is not feeling particularly well. So I don't know if that's going to happen today or not. We shall see. By the way, if you watched the PGA contenders video from last week, I did hit one of my 3 Xander Schauffele top 5. So print some money there. John Rahm went on a run late, but never had the real chance. But I did get one of my 3 bets for the Masters correct. All right, here we go. FanDuel optimal lineup on FanDuel is what I was about to say. So I was going to double up on the word FanDuel. 2 FanDuels for the price of 1. All right, optimal lineup, guys. Let's do it. Appreciate you guys being here. Okay, so number 1 is separated by 0.6 of a point. That's a pretty big one. Dame Lillard, Kyle Lowry, Paul George, Luke Kennard, Miles Bridges, Solomon Hill, Domantas Sabonis, Darius Baisley, Robert Williams. I don't think anything there is all that surprising. I mean, Solomon Hill is not like a guy that is great, but when there's not a lot of value and Solomon Hill is going to play 30 minutes, like that's the only real value play that's popping up here. That's a much more balanced build than I was expecting. Although in the grand scheme of things, that's not surprising considering no one on the slate on FanDuel is more expensive than Devin Booker at 9,500. All right, so power rankings time. Let's get a quick look at what we think this slate will look like. Ty, I doubt I like Clarkson at 5,600. Yeah, look at the gap between Paul George and everybody else in that list. He is just on a complete different planet. So Paul George is the unquestioned number one play on this slate. Not close. Kyle Lowry, unquestioned. Well, not unquestioned, but Kyle Lowry to me is the number two play. He could slip behind Bridges or Bazley here. I don't know. I do want to try to compare this so that we can get an idea of how this really matters. So, like, as you can see, ownerships are going to be on the left-hand side. This would have been in the rankings without that information. So Paul George clearly at the top. Kyle Lowry, the number two. Now, you'll see Robert Williams and Andre Drummond, Moses Brown, Zubac, Capella. They're going to rank relatively highly, but they'll be lower in just overall exposure because you only roster one center. So Miles Bridges is popping up a little bit higher than I was expecting. But there's Bridges. There's Bazley. And all these guys are relatively similar. Marcus Morris actually a little bit higher than I was expecting. I'm going to remove centers here to make this look a little bit easier. So let's take the centers out of the equation. That might make it seem a little bit cleaner. So Paul George, Kyle Lowry, Dame, like 29, 29, 26, 26, 25, 25, 24, 23. Like that's all the same sort of group. So you're getting Dame in that group. You're getting Terry Rozier in that group. Trae Young, a lot lower than I was expecting. That's surprising to me. That tells me that the point guard spot is a little bit different, which is true. We're seeing, here's the problem. So here's the problem with Trae Young. Terry Rozier, Dame Lillard, and Kyle Lowry all rank better than him. So you see Trae Young fall down that list a bit because there's only so much exposure to go around at point guard, and he's already fourth. So that's why you see someone like Miles Bridges be a little bit further down the list, but higher up on the aggregate list. Darius Bazley, we get here. Marcus Morris here. Jimmy Butler. I think that positionally he's showing up a lot higher here because there's nobody else above him. You see Solomon Hill, who's a bit further down here, but again, this is just a value option sneaking in. You get Domantas Sabonis here. So okay, so Kemba highly ranked, but again, behind Trae Young, Terry Rozier, Dame Lillard, Kyle Lowry. Point guard is loaded today, truly loaded. So that's where we're looking right now. But I wanted to give you guys a view that, like, when we're looking at this running total, this is going to be a pretty good approximation for where these guys will be in terms of optimals. When they differ greatly, that is where you'll see the effects of the firm positioning take hold. When we run DraftKings, I expect it to be a little bit more in line, but that's where we are right now. Just to sum it up, power rankings for FanDuel to start. Paul George on his own tier, number one with a bullet. Kyle Lowry, Miles Bridges, Darius Bazley, Marcus Morris, Jimmy Butler, Solomon Hill, Damian Lillard, Domantas Sabonis, Terry Rozier, Siakam, Kemba, Robert Williams, and Jaylen Brown rounding out the list. We'll now move on to the DK side of it all. Lonnie Cleveland, I hope that today is your day. So let's upload DK and let's find out, first and foremost, what is the DK optimal? So DK optimal is looking like Kyle Lowry, Paul George, Miles Bridges, Jalen McDaniels, Ivica Zubac, Trae Young, Darius Bazley, and Tony Bradley sneaking his way in there. The second optimal is off by 0.6 of a point. You get Marcus Morris in and Damian Lillard in for Darius Bazley and Trae Young. Justin, I don't know if your question is asking me personally. I have my own subscription to Fantasy Cruncher. I also receive it through Awesemo. If you sign up at Awesemo, you can get it through Awesemo. But I have had an account with Fantasy Cruncher since it started back in either late 2014, early 2015. So I've just muscle memory for me is a thing, and I've been going to Fantasy Cruncher as the website forever. So if you sign up at awesemo.com, we do have Fantasy Cruncher packages, and you would access Fantasy Cruncher through the awesemo.com website. And your login for the Awesemo Fantasy Cruncher would not work at Fantasy Cruncher proper. All right, power rankings for DraftKings. And then we're going to get out of here. Oop, that was too high. All right, power rankings on DK. Bang. Now, my assumption is that this list looks a lot closer in order. And remember, some of this is relative. Like, separating a guy by 0.9% here, like, don't be, the granular order isn't the same. Okay, so I would have said that I expected Paul George to separate a little bit further. I'm also quite surprised that Marcus Morris is popping up as much as he is, which leads me to believe that Marcus Morris has a low standard deviation because he's popping up more in this crunch than he is in my data. And since I'm being generic in Fantasy Cruncher, I'm going to pull up Marcus Morris's standard deviation, and I bet it's lower than most people. Marcus Morris, yep, 0.111. That is excellent to see. So you can see guys like, Luka, 0.137, James Harden, 0.141. And I'm not trying to name guys that are just like really good. It's just sort of the point in the matter here. Like, who would be a good comp? Like even John Collins, 0.122. Yeah, so 0.11. Okay, so the average is 0.129. So that is why we're seeing Marcus Morris is getting a little bit more variability in Fantasy Cruncher than he is just in my raw data. That stands out. We know Jalen McDaniels is a fantastic value. He's showing up pretty high. Miles Bridges, 4th here, 3rd in this list. We get Kyle Lowry, quite high on this list. Tony Bradley, quite high on this list. Darius Baisley, obviously quite high on this list. Reggie Jackson, interesting to see. Avicii Zubac, Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown showing up that is not a name that I really mentioned, but makes at least some sense. Again, Jaylen Brown, I don't think much of a standard deviation guy either. We see Andre Drummond, Dennis Schroeder. Andre Drummond obviously ranks quite highly. Schroeder, not a name we really touched on. Malcolm Brogdon. We don't see Dame very high, which surprised me a little bit. We even see Kemba slightly ahead of him, but that might just be a salary thing. But either way, Paul George is at the top of the heap. Then you get another little tier with like Marcus Morris, Jalen McDaniels, Bridges, and Lowry. Tony Bradley as well. Baisley, Jackson, Zubac, Brown, Drummond, Schroeder, Brogdon, and Kemba Walker. Guys, that is 6 games up, 6 games down. I thought that we were going to get through this faster and that I could do some questions and stuff, and that just didn't happen. So maybe we'll be able to do that on Thursday because 8 game. That's awesome. I hope everything goes well for you. We only have a 4-game slate on Thursday. So for those of you that are here, for those of you that are going to be here live, don't be afraid to think up some questions. We can take some questions at the end of the show and we can ask some things. So like, these aren't going to be like, so-and-so versus so-and-so at small forward. Like if you have some actual DFS questions, feel free to hit me up on Thursday. We're going to have some extra time. So we only got 4 games. But that's it, everybody. We done. Another rise and grind in the books. Yep. It's good stuff. I appreciate you guys being here. It's fun. I love this show more than ever. Look, I really like doing the strategy show with Lofty. Don't get me wrong. It's very different. This is what I love to do. I love to dig into the data and be a nerd about it and be in Excel and just talk. And This show allows me to do that. So if it wasn't for you guys showing up every morning at 6:30 in the morning, drinking coffee with me, or whatever it is that you do to start your day, I wouldn't be able to do this. So thank you guys so much for being here. If you haven't already, please hit the like button when you leave. But really, subscribe to the channel. That one helps the company out a ton. The more subscribers we get, the more that we can do for you guys. So good luck tonight, everybody. Catch me on the strategy show with Laffy. Contenders videos will be out shortly. If you watch the process show, I do appreciate it if you watch the contenders, but you're going to know who the contenders are one way or the other. There's not going to be a lot of shocks. But thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it. Good luck tonight. I'll talk to you later.